Jeff, you're up.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I want to thank the governor's team for coming here and picking the Brewworks as a location. I also want to thank today, we have Northampton County Executive Lamont McClure, State Representative Josh Siegel, State Representative Gene McNeil, and State Representative Steve Samuelson, as well as State Senator Lisa Boscola and Bethlehem Mayor Willie Reynolds. So thank you everyone for coming out. The Brewworks was established in 1998. We've been here, we're about to have our 27th anniversary, and we're right here on a main street. And we picked the main street because of the simple flow of people coming through the town. It's an awesome historic downtown. If you've never been to Bethlehem before, we have a historic hotel that is phenomenal. There's places to get ice cream, you name it. It was super walkable, beautiful downtown, and that was the main reason that we picked here. Obviously, there's some great concerns what's going on right now with the economy, the future of the economy, and specifically these tariffs, which are a concern for small businesses like myself and for many. And it's a big unknown as to what's going to happen, how that's going to affect them. We have ingredients that come from Canada and other things that are sourced that potentially are going to be increasing overnight. And I'm glad that the governor is here to speak about that because I know it concerns him. He was just speaking about it yesterday. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Governor Shapiro.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be in Bethlehem. It's especially great to be at Fegley's. And Jeff, thank you for welcoming us. Thanks for building just an incredible Brewworks here, a place that is a destination for tourists, a place that is a destination for locals, and a place that has strengthened our Main Street here in Bethlehem. And I know we appreciate your voice, and we're gonna hear from Bo in just a moment from Sherman Street Beer Company, a guy who got his start right here at Fegley's and has continued on this great tradition. I too want to thank the representatives and the senator for being here. I'm very grateful for the partnership that we have to help move Pennsylvania forward. And I always think of my buddy Willie Reynolds when I'm on Main Street in Bethlehem. This guy has done an unbelievable job as mayor of Bethlehem. We've known each other for more than a decade. I'm so proud of his leadership and proud of what he has built and what he continues to build. So, Mr. Mayor, thanks for welcoming us back into your hometown. It is always good to be back at a bustling brewery, one of the incredible businesses right here on Main Street in Bethlehem. And one of the things I love most about Pennsylvania is that no matter where you go, rural, urban, suburban communities, every community's got a Main Street. Sometimes those Main Streets have real tall buildings, sometimes they're single stories, sometimes it's real long, sometimes it's a little shorter, but the beating heart of our communities across Pennsylvania, well, they are our Main Streets. And I think the economic strength of our towns and cities is directly tied to small businesses like Fegley's and others that line our Main Streets and give people places to go and give them purpose in their communities. You know, as your governor, I've made a point to visit Pennsylvania's Main Streets and not just talk to those business owners, but invest in those business owners to strengthen our Main Streets, especially right here in Bethlehem. Last year, my administration launched, with the help of each lawmaker who is here, the Main Street Matters Initiative, with an historic $20 million investment to support the businesses and the communities that depend on these Main Streets. This was built on the successful Keystone Communities Initiative, and those grants are helping cities and towns across Pennsylvania upgrade the facades of old buildings, repair sidewalks, make safer streets, and invest directly in our Main Street businesses. In 2024, I know the mayor will talk more about this, Bethlehem City received 2 Keystone Community grants, one to repair building facades right here in the historic downtown district, and another to repair a blighted building to give it new life and new purpose. Even businesses along this corridor who don't get a direct funding from the Commonwealth still benefit, because I believe a rising tide lifts all boats along our main streets, and Bethlehem is a great example of that. Now, my administration has a very strategic approach when it comes to creating economic opportunity in every community across our Commonwealth, rural, urban, and suburban. And that approach is guided by the Commonwealth's first economic development strategy in more than 20 years. Economic development strategy that focuses heavily on our main streets. Let me give you an example of where our main street businesses, our manufacturing sector, and our ag sector, three areas that we highlight in that economic development strategy. Let me give you an area of where they all intersect. Well, right around local craft breweries like this one. Craft brewers often line main streets, like right here in Bethlehem, and they purchase supplies like cans and kegs from Pennsylvania manufacturers, and ingredients like malt and hops and fruit from local Pennsylvania farmers. They take in all of those ingredients and equipment, and they create some incredible beer, like right here at Fegley's. And then they go on to sell that beer in tap rooms, in restaurants, and in our grocery stores. As part of our economic development strategy, my administration is helping grow industries like craft brewing compete and win on a national level. In fact, craft brewing contributes $5.4 billion to the Pennsylvania economy every year. We are home to 530 craft breweries across Pennsylvania, and we produce more than 3 million barrels of beer each and every year. That puts us as second in the nation. Now, I am competitive as hell. I would like us to be first in the nation, and I believe we can be if we continue to invest in our breweries and we continue to invest in our main streets. Last year, we invested $500,000 into research and marketing grants to boost sales and production of Pennsylvania craft beer and malt beverages. And I want to say thank you to the representatives and the senator who are here who funded that. Remember, we've got a divided legislature. For us to be able to pass any of this funding requires votes from Democrats and Republicans. And every single one of your representatives and your senator have lined up to support initiatives like this that support communities like Bethlehem. I think standing up as they have, as I've tried to do, for our main streets, for our small businesses, is particularly important, especially right now. I'm mindful that we are here today in Bethlehem on the same day that the federal government is about to impose massive tariffs across the board. And I'm worried about the impacts on Pennsylvania businesses once those tariffs hit, and other countries then hit us back with retaliatory tariffs. Listen, this is not hard to understand. You do not need a degree in economics in order to make sense of what is about to occur. A tariff is a tax, and it increases the price for consumers and for businesses. Let's take aluminum, for example. The aluminum that the beer comes in that can. The Trump administration has already implemented a 25% tariff on aluminum that comes from Canada and other countries. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has said these tariffs will lead to higher costs for American businesses and consumers that use that aluminum. But again, you do not need an advanced degree in economics to understand that Trump's tariffs are just a tax on consumers and the businesses that need that aluminum to package their goods, like the beer here at our craft brewers. 75% of craft brews are sold in aluminum cans. So when aluminum is harder to find or more expensive to buy, that drives up the cost of producing your favorite local beer. And it's not just the can that beer comes in. It's how the beer itself is made and brewed. The vats that are used in order to process that beer, well, they're made of steel. Steel is now subject to additional tariffs, tax. Many of our small craft brewers source their malted barley from Canada, and the cost of that malt barley has gone up because of these tariffs, and it's made it harder to source it domestically, primarily because the big purchasers, the big beer companies, gather most of it, but also because of the market forces that are being changed from this tariff war that the president is putting in place. So whether it is the malted barley, whether it is the vats where the beer is made, or the aluminum cans that you drink the beer out of, all of it is going to cost more. And ultimately, it forces people like Jeff and Bo to unfortunately have to pass that cost on to consumers. They don't want to do that. They don't want to raise prices. They want to actually cut their prices. But the federal government is now making it harder for them to get by and forcing them to have to pass these costs on to consumers. And because of President Trump's tariff war, it is going to make it more expensive for them to do business and for consumers to enjoy their delicious beers and their wonderful food. So for all of the talk coming out of Washington, out of this administration, about bringing companies to the United States, we are here in Pennsylvania with a local small business that sources their materials locally, that sells locally, and they're still going to be faced with higher costs. And people are going to suffer because of these tariffs that the president implemented last month and he is going to expand upon later today. I'm not sure why the president of the United States wants to do this to our small businesses, wants to harm our main streets. But here in Pennsylvania, I want you to know that I give a damn about our small businesses, and I give a damn about our main streets. And I am trying, together with these lawmakers, to make life easier for our small businesses, to make life easier and more profitable for those businesses that line our main streets. We're going to continue to invest in our main streets, and we're going to continue to cut costs, as we have in the past by cutting taxes for our small businesses, to continue to cut costs and cut taxes for our small businesses to help them get ahead. I just wish the president wasn't working against us as recklessly as he is. This tariff war that he is starting, this button that he is pushing, is going to have one effect, and that effect is to drive up costs on consumers and businesses throughout Pennsylvania at a time where we can't afford that. And it's going to make our lives way more difficult, and it's going to make it harder for us to be able to cut costs for our small businesses that I know could use a break. I want to thank Fegley's for welcoming us here today, for showing us what it means to have a dream to build a small business on a main street right here in Bethlehem, to give people an outlet to come together and enjoy themselves, to eat great food and drink great beer and enjoy one another. Unfortunately, costs are going up because of decisions in Washington. It's not the folks here at Fegley's fault, it's Donald Trump's fault. And we're going to do everything we can in Pennsylvania to continue to invest in our main streets, our businesses, and push back on this policy coming out of Washington and meet this disastrous, reckless policy with more common sense here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So right now, it's my pleasure to invite Bo up to share a little bit about Sherman Street Beer Company, his vision, what he learned here at Fegley's, and what he's been able to build in his small business. Bo, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Let's see if I get this right. They bring a brewer in to talk about beer. Yeah, that's the hard part, the talking. If you put a beer in my hand, I'm much better. But I'll try to get through.
Get this guy a beer.
I'm good for now. We'll get through it. But as I said, my name is Bo Baden. I'm the owner of Sherman Street Beer Company over in East Allentown. We're a mom and pop operation. Myself and my wife run it day to day, and we've built a great community over there in our neighborhood, and we're a great meeting place for folks. We love seeing people come in daily, talking to folks of all different kinds and everything like that. We've been in business for 4 years. We've navigated plenty of challenges over the years. We're facing a new hurdle with the tariffs now. This new hurdle is going to affect us a bit. going to add some cost on our end. Our suppliers are going to be passing on the cost to them to us. Cans are a big portion of our business. Beer has to go into a can or a keg or something else. So we've got to figure out what we're going to be doing to offset that. It's either we eat the money on our end. We're a small business where profit margins are very tiny, you know, in the 5 to 10% range. It's very small, so we have to figure if we have to pass it on to consumer who are also price sensitive right now. It's a big, difficult decision to make. And, you know, we want to be in business for as long as possible and keep growing and expanding. If we have to buy more tanks, there's obviously a cost onto that. On that note, I know there's a lot of other small breweries out there, a lot of owners out there, you know, hoping to sustain this hurdle. And I just want to thank the governor for having us out and everybody here today for coming out and having us here. And thank you guys. Oh, and up next is the mayor.
Thank you, Bo. And you know, it's an honor for the governor to come here to the great city of Bethlehem to talk about the effect of the consequences of these tariffs going forward, but also to allow some of our small businesses to tell that Bethlehem story. And the Bethlehem story is not a Democratic or Republican story; it's an American story. And the Brewworks has been a key part of that city of Bethlehem comeback. I think everybody across our country, across Pennsylvania, knows Bethlehem Steel declined. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania was at a crossroads. And I remember I was saying when I was in high school, too young to come in to have a beer, when the Brewworks came to Bethlehem in April of 1998, it was a symbol. It was a symbol that Bethlehem was on its way back. And what we've accomplished as a community over the past 25 years is nonpartisan. It's bipartisan. We've been able to attract new investment, new families, people that want to live here, people that want to move here, people that want to send their kids to school here. And the backbone of that has been jobs. 2008, we had about 28,000 jobs. Now we're up over 42,000 jobs in the city of Bethlehem. That American success story has come down to the fact that we have governors like Governor Shapiro. We have state representatives like Representative McNeil and Samuelson, State Senator Boscola, who come and they listen. And they listen to our businesses, and they go back to Harrisburg. Contrast what we're doing in Pennsylvania on economic development with what's going on in Washington. The governor launched a year-long listening tour where he took his staff to every corner. I think you probably went to all 67 counties and heard from our business community. What do you need to create jobs? What do you need to bring people to Pennsylvania? I am old enough to remember 20 years ago when the plan was, how do we hold on to our young people? How do we hold on to our 20-year-olds, our 30-year-olds, our 40-year-olds in the state of Pennsylvania? This governor, this legislature has done that, and those investments have worked in places like Bethlehem. I do a lot of getting out in the community, a lot of knocking on doors. There's a couple things I know. People like where Pennsylvania is, they like where Bethlehem is, and they're real scared and uncertain about what's going on in Washington. It's the instability. That is not what you want as a family. It's not what you want as a business. The Fegleys are a success story here in the city of Bethlehem. They're about to celebrate 27 years of success here in one of the most prominent corners we have in Bethlehem. And when they came and they invested their hard-earned family dollars, it allowed the city to invest money, it allowed the state to invest money. And looking at what's going on in Washington right now and what those potential threats could be, it scares all of us. But I want to thank the governor for coming today, for choosing Bethlehem, choosing to magnify our success story. Because what we've been able to do is add those jobs, become the safest city in Pennsylvania, top 100 place to live over and over and over again across America. And we've done that because we cooperate, we work with our private sector, we work with our state and federal leaders to be able to drive investment and let people follow the American dream and accomplish those goals like the Fegleys, like Bo, and so many others. So we stand here concerned about what's going to happen at 4 o'clock and later on today and the coming months. Bethlehem will have the Fegleys back. We'll have your back, Bo. Anytime you want to come back here to Bethlehem, we got a space for you. And I know our state legislator and our governor will have our back. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my great friend, Senator Boscola, to make some comments.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Governor Shapiro, for being here once again. He's been here so many times, and I can tell you, I've been in office for 30 years. I've never seen a governor be in the Lehigh Valley as much as this governor has, and he's only been here 2 years. Yeah, it's amazing. And I know he is competitive. And that's why nationally he's all over the news as well. He's just such a great governor for Pennsylvania. And now when you heard him speak, you can see why. Anyway, I want to talk about like 30 years ago, when you walked down Main Street in Bethlehem, you would have wondered if the city would survive, right? Because the largest employer, Bethlehem Steel at the time, had closed due to globalization and competition. So the Hotel Bethlehem was on the verge, and that's down the road, of closing, and the community was deeply concerned about its future. That was 30 years ago. This very building was once a Woolworths. Does anybody know what a Woolworths was, right? Anyway, it was a five and dime store, a relic of another era. And back then, I'm pretty sure no one even heard of what a microbrewery was 30 years ago, let alone even imagining one thriving here like it is today. So when discussing the impacts of tariffs, you have to fundamentally understand the impact on an overall business. The president says 25%, although pick a number, I don't know, 10, 20, 50. He goes back and forth all the time. But what does that mean? So despite the number, what does that mean? Well, here at this brewery, your malt and barley has to come from somewhere. You have to buy it. There's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding it. So businesses like this can't absorb the increases without taking a hit to their bottom line. And what are their choices? You either have to raise prices or you have to absorb it somehow. Not a good scenario. Bethlehem is a community that knows all too well how the global trade can decimate an industry. When Bethlehem Steel shut its doors, it wasn't just the factory that closed, it was thousands of jobs, generations of pride, and the backbone of the city. Outside the Steelworkers Hall, and you know this, there was an I-beam with a simple message that was welded into it that said, "Stop illegal steel dumping." It was a visual reminder of what happens when foreign competition undercuts American workers. And yet, Bethlehem, in its resiliency, did not give up. This city has thrived in decades since the steel mill closed, thanks to the resilience and vision of families like the Fegleys. 27 years ago, the Fegley family took a chance on themselves, on Bethlehem, and on a little-known concept, a microbrewery. And today, microbreweries are a commonplace. They become a cornerstone of the main streets, like the governor said, throughout the Commonwealth. And this certainly wasn't the case 27 years ago. The craft brewery industry has had a tremendous such a positive impact on our communities across the Commonwealth. And today in the Lehigh Valley, it's home to over 20 craft breweries. However, like so many of the restaurants and taverns, craft breweries are still attempting to recover from the pandemic. And now we're adding tariffs on top. I don't know how you're going to handle this, but I can tell you the governor and I and our legislature are here to try to figure out how we're going to help you during this turmoil. And like I said earlier, the proposed tariffs will impact aluminum, malt, barley, which will have a clear impact on our craft brewing industry. So we need to stand with this industry and what it has done to rebuild our main streets across Pennsylvania. Consumer data does show that with tariffs looming and concerns over increased prices across the board, consumers are already cutting back on items, including craft beer. People, when they're unsure about the economy, they're going to spend less, or they're not going to spend their money. It's just a fact. And the tariff on Canadian barley and malt will affect all breweries. Even those that don't use imported grain will feel the impact, as the increased demand for domestic ingredients will significantly rise prices for American barley and malt. And once the beer is brewed, the cost of steel for kegs and aluminum for cans have already been impacted by the 25% tariff currently in place for all foreign metal imports. Then you add countries boycotting to the mix. Pennsylvania breweries are already seeing lost revenue as Canadian imports of craft beer have begun canceling orders and pulling U.S. products off their shelves. Small businesses are the key to job creation, and craft breweries such as Fegley's will be significantly impacted by these tariffs. And while the governor and I cannot stop Washington from imposing these horrible tariffs. We as policymakers need to figure out how we can help you, how we can help small businesses like this when this uncertainty continues to drag out. We can highlight the impact these policies will have on Pennsylvania businesses so everyone is aware, and we can pledge to do all we can to let business owners know that we're certainly committed to helping them survive through these uncertain times. The Fegleys took a huge risk by investing in Bethlehem long before it was a sure bet. And I want you to know that we will stand by you and help you weather this storm and try to figure this out in Harrisburg. Governor, one way we can help is join the Mug Club. It's a big
deal.
thing here.
Thanks.
It is a big thing.
Sammy, our state representative, Steve Sammy Samuelson.
From right here in Bethlehem, and as the senator said, it's really an honor to have Governor Shapiro back in Bethlehem yet again. Really appreciate all your support for our community and our Lehigh Valley in so many ways, week after week, month after month. We can count on Governor Shapiro. We stand here in the vibrant downtown Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. As the mayor said, our downtown is thriving, and that is because of a supportive community, but also the investment of business people like Jeff Fegley. Just think about what we heard, that Jeff started here 27 years ago, 1998, started here in Bethlehem, 9 years later, expanded to Allentown. There's an Allentown Brew Works. And today, two successful businesses, there are 75 employees who work in downtown Bethlehem, downtown Allentown, thanks to the Bethlehem Brew Works. That investment and the investment of all of the other businesses here in Main Street and our downtowns are really what makes our community thrive. It is so disappointing to have a president of the United States who seems to want to hurt small businesses, who seems to want to hurt consumers. The decisions that he's making, day by day, hour by hour, who knows how he thinks. But my goodness, imagine you're in a situation like Jeff or Bo here, and you want to expand your business. First of all, you want to maintain your business and grow your business, and you have costs. You have payroll costs. You have loans. You have you have energy costs. You have ingredients. If you want to expand, Bo and I were talking about he wants to expand. I think the mayor has a good location for you. You have to buy a fermenter or a steel tank or more cans. To have the President of the United States increase your costs by 25% all at once, almost on a whim, that's crazy, and it's anti-business. It's anti-small business. That policy should be rejected. I want to also say that we are trying to invest here in Pennsylvania. Governor Shapiro has shown tremendous leadership all across our state. The business, $500 million for investing in businesses all across Pennsylvania, that was a huge commitment, and it was enacted into law last summer. The $20 million for the Main Street Matters program, that was a significant increase over previous programs, and that funding is going to have an impact all over Pennsylvania. We're going to also try to keep that going in this budget and next budget and the one after. And also targeted investments like the $500,000 for marketing and sales for craft breweries. We have a very successful craft brewery industry all across Pennsylvania. Let's continue to support that at the state level, and let's speak up and speak out against these terrible policies in Washington that are out to hurt small business.
Thanks, Tim.
I'd like to introduce my colleague from the legislature from the 133rd District, Jeannie McNeil. She represents Bethlehem and the heart of the Lehigh Valley.
Thank you, Rep. Samuelson. I want to thank Governor Shapiro for inviting me, but I also want to say thank you for almost coming to my district.
It's like 100 yards,
100
right?
yards
Yeah.
away, yes. Hopefully you'll put that on your bucket list for the future.
Next week.
As someone who grew up in Bethlehem, it's always great to come back. So, many craft brewers, like the Fegleys from Fegleys Brew Works and Matt Rice from Hawk Mountain Brewery, and so many others in the Lehigh Valley, make and sell their craft beer. They will be strongly affected, making costs rise to them and then to the consumers. Most of the craft brewers in this area are what we like to call mom and pop shops that start their own business and work really hard to grow and promote them. These tariffs will likely not hurt the countries that these products come from, but will hurt our local businesses and cause a deeper dive into the pockets of all who patronize these fine establishments. What this president is doing is hurting all of us, and the long-term effect will get worse. However, we must stay determined and continue our efforts to reduce the effects of these tariffs on small business like Fagley's and Hawk Mountain Brewery and so many more. We must continue to encourage our federal policymakers to consider the impact that it's having on our area and so much more. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Thanks, Rep. And again, I want to thank Representative McNeil. I want to thank Representative Sammy Samuelson, Representative Siegel, and of course, Senator Boscola for their work. They really deliver for the Lehigh Valley, and I'm grateful that they're here. And with that, we're happy to take a few questions.
The president has named different goals in the different tariffs that have been rolled out. In some cases, it's the border. In some cases, it's bringing manufacturing and business to the U.S. What if it works? What if it helps with the border? What if it brings more manufacturing to the U.S.? What if these work?
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say in general, I hope the president's policies work because I'm always cheering for America, and I want to see America succeed. I want to see Americans be better off. But what I've seen over the first 70 days of his administration is chaos that has resulted in higher prices, fewer rights, and more worry from so many people that I meet all across Pennsylvania. Just yesterday, I was in Mifflin County, which looks a whole lot different than where we are here in the Lehigh Valley, a rural area in Pennsylvania where hardwood is the biggest industry out there. In fact, Pennsylvania is #1 in hardwoods in the entire country. We're proud of that. They dealt with these tariffs 4 years ago, back in 2018, when President Trump was first in office. The entire hardwoods industry lost, as a result of these tariffs, $1 billion. They haven't climbed back from the hole that President Trump put them in, and now he's going to hit them with even more significant tariffs. So while, of course, I'm rooting for America to succeed, I'm rooting for our president to succeed because that means we all succeed, we have seen enough from him over his first 4 years and over these first 70 days, the chaos, the confusion, the higher prices, to know that the direction he's heading in right now is really reckless and really dangerous. My job is to protect the good people of Pennsylvania. I'm doing my best every single day. I wish I had a partner in the White House who wanted to do the same for our small businesses, our students, and everybody in between.
Governor, so many people here have mentioned Bethlehem Steel, and one of the things the president said, he wants steel manufacturing back in the United States. Do you think these tariffs can be effective in bringing steel back to the U.S.?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end. Let me give you a real-life example, right? I was at Voith, which is a company in York, Pennsylvania, which manufactures the turbines used to produce hydroelectric power. They're not just any company doing it. They are the largest manufacturer of these hydroelectric parts in North America, right? They source all of the steel, which is the primary material used to build these turbines. They source all of that steel from America, from domestic sources, not from Canada. And yet they're seeing their prices go way up because of the chaos that Trump has injected into the marketplace. I'm all for bringing jobs back to Pennsylvania, back to America. We work hard to do that every day, and we're showing victories there every day. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is a White House that's now actually making it harder to accomplish that. I've seen the devastating effect of trade deals that were bad for Pennsylvania, bad for America in the 90s and the early 2000s. But just by slapping across the board 20-25% tariffs as the president's doing in such a reckless way, that's not going to spur American manufacturing. I'll tell you what will spur American manufacturing. Investing in businesses here in America, not cutting money that's supposed to go to them and raising their costs. I'll tell you what else is going to make us more competitive in America. Investing in our schools and STEM education. Tell you what else is going to make us competitive in America. Being healthy and not eviscerating the Department of Human Services and making it harder for people to be healthy, making it harder for us to stop diseases, whether in humans or in birds. I'll tell you what else is going to make us more competitive. Investing today in our workforce so more people learn how to be welders and more people learn the skills that they need to do the jobs of today and tomorrow. All things we're doing in Pennsylvania and all things the federal government is walking back on. You want to know how to beat China? Invest in our workforce for tomorrow. Invest in American excellence. Instead, we've got a president who's hollowing out the skills that we need, divesting from business, and raising cost on consumers. That's a surefire way to fall backwards when it comes to the world order, and it's a surefire way to not be as competitive as we've been historically.
I have a question that's a little bit off topic, but it's not everyday Pennsylvania too. It's applied to breaking news this morning. There was an announcement that the Homer City Power Plant, formerly the largest coal power plant in the state, is going to reopen as a gas-fired plant that will generate electricity for data center and AI. Recently, we had an announcement about TMI 1, that's going to reopen. It's also a famous power plant here in the state. We're going to sell electricity to Microsoft. Yeah. Should everyday Pennsylvanians be concerned that powerful entities are...
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear.
Should everyday folks be concerned that these powerful entities are getting first dibs on big new sources of electricity?
I think in general terms, and I'll just make a general comment about Homer City, because obviously a lot more details have to come out, and then let me answer the crux of your question. I mean, I've made clear Pennsylvania is an energy leader. We are a net energy exporter, and I've made clear through my lightning plan that I've put forth that we need to generate more energy here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It is essential for our state's economy, and I believe it's essential for our national security. My administration has obviously been engaged with folks at Homer City, and we are pleased to see a project go forward. There are obviously a lot of questions that still need to be answered, a lot of permits that need to be received, and I'll reserve the balance of my comments when there are more details that we can share on that. In general, to the heart of your question for before, I want to make sure that we win the battle on AI here in America, and we don't let China beat us on that front. And Pennsylvania is going to have something to say about it because we have energy that can be used to power these data centers, that can be used to power the Gen AI models that we're going to need in order to win. Now, what we have to do as we generate that power, and as power is used by the AI industry, is to ensure that it does not result in increased costs for consumers. And the way we do that is by generating more power than what we have now, constructing power purchase agreements that work for both the data center and work for local communities. And I'm confident that we can do that by all working together, the energy companies, the data companies, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and our local communities.
Governor, I have a very off-topic question. Can I ask you after you ask you now?
Yeah, let me just see if there's more on this. Okay. Anything else on this? Okay. Good. Morning call, good? Okay.
There's been some concern raised over the transparency in the process of the opioid trust. Just curious how you think it's going so far?
You know, I worked hard as Attorney General together with initially 3 other Attorneys General from across the country. It was 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, to ensure that we were able to recoup the ill-gotten gains from the pharmaceutical companies and bring them back to our respective states to help people who were suffering the disease of addiction get the treatment that they need. I'm proud of the work that I did as Attorney General, which resulted in over $2 billion coming back to the Commonwealth. Part of what we constructed in that settlement was that 85 cents of every dollar, 85% of the money that would come back to the Commonwealth would go to our counties and have county governments give those dollars out, appropriate those dollars in a way that ensured the maximum benefit from those who are suffering the disease of addiction. I expect counties and the 15% that the state doles out, which we do through our appropriations process, I expect counties to be open and transparent in how they give out the money. I expect the entity that delivers the money to the counties to be open and transparent about that. And I expect the money to go to treatment and related services as required by law under that settlement agreement. Okay?
I'm curious in particular about the trust itself. When they meet behind closed doors, it's not open to public input, so.
I expect those dollars to be given out in accordance with the law, and I expect transparency in that process.
How do you define
Thank you.
transparency in that, though?
I expect the dollars to make their way to the community in the way in which the settlement agreement was constructed, those dollars to make it to counties, 85% of it, and for the counties to provide it for treatment and for related services as according to the schedule that's affixed to that underlying agreement. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Okay.